For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Sending you guys a bit of a review video on kind of a new / updated product from Zempire. So with me here I have got the Zempire Pro TL V2 Aero range of collection. So the Aero sort of Pro range has sort of seen a big update for the 23 season going forward. And what they've kind of really done is almost redesigned it, but kept the kind of the core nature of the actual kind of Aero design. But maybe done a few updates to improve it, make it a bit more kind of sort of versatile in what it does. But more importantly, I think certainly with the TL model, which we'll discuss in this video here, have changed the dynamic completely and actually made it, I think for me, almost nearly probably the best size ones in the range. There is a model available in the TL size, which got me here, and a TXL, which we've got in a separate video you can always check out as well. But we'll start at the main kind of feature points that have changed from the previous model to this new V2 model. So first and foremost, which is very obvious, is the fact we've got a new colour. Something brighter, something fresher, and really nice kind of sort of, still got the old classic kind of brown style to it, but with obviously the nice kind of whitey grey kind of top part to it. Another key feature is the fact that actually, certainly with the TL model, is we've got actually now a proper sized front awning section on it. It's worth noting that as I've got it here, I've got it situated with an optional wall set. So really the front of the Aero now is completely open to very much like they do in kind of the Evo range. Now what we can see is the fact that by doing that we kind of create more of a kind of open enclosed section. The wall kit can be purchased separately, which helps to make the overall pack weight and pack size a bit smaller. So with the Pro TL now, you're looking at just under 34 kilograms, which is quite remarkable when you look at the specification you got built into this. So going back to the specification, what we still have is their really lovely sort of 210D with that kind of 420 ripstop running through it, so a really strong fabric, UN spec. It's basically what they've done is they've changed the materials to a certain degree to actually keep colour rigidity, so to look sharper for longer. To do that, what they have done is actually take it down from 10,000 mil down to 8,000 mil waterproof rating. But if I'm being perfectly honest, that's still more than any other brand out there on the marketplace. And to be fair, I don't think you actually know the difference from a 10,000 to 8,000 mil. It's very marginal at best. What we also have is we've got now a single point inflation, which is probably one of the biggest talking points about this tent now. So you've got one point located here, pumps up the whole tent. Personally, I wouldn't want to do that with a hand pump, just because it's quite intense and you've got a really nice thick beams, which we'll come to on the inside in a second. So for me, I'd recommend definitely electric pump, press the button and you're good to go. You've got a Boston valve to inflate it, which is nice and neat, and there's also isolation taps on the inside, which we'll look at a bit later on. We've got one point to inflation, but every single point here has a deflation point. It's a bit different to what we see out in the marketplace, that essentially there is no real inflation point from each of a beam. You are only going to do it from one point. But Zempire are providing a little adapter that you can put onto the pump if you so wish to pump up individually. But for me, I wouldn't bother with that. It's only probably, I'd say, more of an emergency. If, God forbid, you had an issue, you can still put the main part of the tent up and leave the middle beam where it may be. So yeah, nice big Boston valve, very easy. And again, little taps which you can open and close. The thing obviously that does make Zempire stand out from its range is, like I said, the specification you see through it. So not only have we got kind of the bigger beams, so really nice and sturdy, but also with a single inflation point, you can get that roof looking really quite sharp. It's the finer details that really do make the difference and what they kind of try to achieve. So even stuff like all of the pegging points are like a metal ring, again designed for durability, webbing straps at each point to give that bit of tension. High visibility guidelines mixed with gold coloured metal sliders, again all about quality and goes out. And I suppose a testament to kind of their level of detail of what they want to do is you'll see this very slight kind of Zempire yellow trim, and anyone could have just made it a nice straight panel. What they've done is they've almost, again, it's down to the perfectionists of kind of how they want to do it, a small ridge opening up to wider as we go through the tent, and then when you have the door fully sealed up, sweeps up quite nicely. You've still got a brow pole on the side, so what that allows you to do is obviously have a rain safe door in and out the fence, and certainly when it is kind of raining, water's not coming directly in, it can pull off quite happily. The side door features obviously a normal waterproof door, but you've got the full mesh door there as well, so you have the airflow while you have the rain, so you've got showers coming on and off, you've got that coverage. Naturally, Zempire being a New Zealand brand, they're equipped pretty much for extreme weathers of the UK, hotter summers and cooler winters. And ventilation is probably one of the biggest factors in this tent that you don't see elsewhere from any other brand. So what you've got is every single panel has got mesh to it to allow airflow, but you've still got visibility and then curtains to get kind of the weather tightness as well. That's one thing I do quite like about this is you almost got a half and half. So on those rainy days when you don't want as much ventilation, you put it up, but you don't lose the visibility. And you've got these beautiful kind of slightly tinted windows just to get an element of privacy really. It's not going to be completely see-through, and they've toned it down a little bit just to kind of contrast against kind of the more whiter fabric. Other things to note as well is the fact that we've got ventilation points down the bottom, and we'll look a bit later on around the back and to the side. So there are different options in terms of the front part here. Essentially it is a free zone tent, sleeping at the back, a very generous sort of living area, and then obviously an open canopy area with the option of the wall kits at the front. When you buy additional wall kits, you get essentially free components with them. You get the beautiful kind of tinted window that we can see here. Then behind that you also get a mesh front, which looks something like this. Or of course you can have it open with no wall kit, which looks like this. The joys of having those free components is that you have the option of doing what you wish to do. You can have your sort of sealed in front away from the weather, you have your ventilation so you have a light on at night and not have the bugs come in. Alternatively, you can actually use them in comparison with one another. So you can have the mesh bit part on and then actually zip on the additional kind of normal version, and you've got wing poles, I should say, that can allow you to go wing it out. And again, you have them both in place, it looks something like this. So that gives you an idea about the versatility of what you want to do with it. Now, because you've got a physical zip that allows you to attach it on, when you have both in place at the same time, you have the mesh kind of clipped on almost behind it, and then you will then put this zipped on over the top. There's little eyelets located down here for those additional poles to go wing out, and you normally get free as well, and you can play around with that quite a bit. Now, the thing you probably say to me is, where's the front door? When you've got this in place, you can actually unzip this part here, so you can either have it as a little bit of a slight entrance, and you've got a tie back point that comes here. Failing that, take it back a bit further, you have a tie back that comes here, or failing back you go half and half, and at each point there are points you can toggle it back, so you can really create what you want to do with it. You have got two zippers on both sides, so what that enables you to do is you can actually open it from left to right or right to left, depending on how you want your setup to be. Webbing storm straps are located front and back to get an extra bit of tension and strength in there, but like I said earlier, because you've got the beam now running in the roof section, which we'll come to in a bit, structurally wise it couldn't be any better. One criticism probably of the old T model was the fact that it was quite low at the front. So what they've done now is actually increase the beam height at the front here about 20 centimetres, and now it actually is a much more usable space. And for me, I think my favourite thing, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is the pack size. You're not going to find a specification like this, in the size like this, with the level of details like that, for 34 kg. That for me is, okay, it's a heavy tent, but it's a very premium top end range. So I think for me, you're struggling to do that really. What we'll do, let's have a little look inside, talk through a load more features, and get into the nitty gritty of how it feels, and more importantly, some other new stuff that has been introduced to it, which I think is a really good option. So now in front of kind of the Aero TL, you can kind of appreciate now I've took that sort of front additional wall kit out, how it now looks. Really nice open sort of size, but it's a much more generous depth than you probably have seen, certainly with the Aero in previously. So the old Aero basically was almost here and came straight down, so you didn't really have kind of any sort of front section here to sort of play with. Admittedly, your living area kind of is around about the same sort of size. It's worth noting from a floor plan point of view, when you consider this in comparison to the slightly lower spec of the Evo, is the living area is a little bit longer. I think it's about half a metre longer. So, but I think for me, for a very, very, very comfy family of 4, or if you really want to 5, I think it gives you all the amount of space you necessarily want. So we've got a canopy depth, as you can see here. Brilliant area for sort of making, having a cooker unit or a bit of shelter away from it. You've still got the visibility out through there to get a great sort of view on the site. But like I said, you've got the privacy as you want to. New sky windows at the top here works really well. Again, looks quite sharp and still got that element of tint to it, as we can see. We move on into kind of the main living area, and we look at kind of Zempire's iconic 360 door. What this allows you to do is have versatility of opening it from whichever way you want to. But more importantly, you've got that full 360 mesh part to it as well. So we've got it situated halfway here, which obviously allows you to create a little bit of a kind of a dead space behind. So again, orientate yourself so you have cooking units and sofas and that sort of stuff located there. Failing that, what you can obviously do is you want to completely seal yourself up. You can close it like so and open up the mesh one, so you can go halfway with that, or of course kind of fully open, so you've got that full bug barrier. So in a night time when you've got a light on, you've got that protection here. And again, if you don't go for the wall set, or if you do, you've got that double layer all the way through the actual tent itself. When you don't want to necessarily have anything here, I'll do that back up, we can open it up fully, and then it goes nice and neatly into a pocket down by the side here. Stuff it in. So then we bring kind of the main area into the section here as well. Now, head height in here is much better than it was in probably the old model. I'm 6'2", can stand up, and certainly in the corners, it's got a much more upright feel. 2 doors on either side of the awning, obviously one with the rain-safe canopy, which we saw earlier, but you've got airflow coming directly in. Window panels with, again, mesh all the way up until this point here, works really quite smartly, and then you can have the privacy all the way up with those sky windows in that main living section. Now, you can obviously see the tube that runs through the centre of the actual tent itself, and that really gets that material looking really nice and taut. Hanging points and lanterns are situated throughout the points, so not only have you got kind of one in the main living area, but you also got one in kind of the awning section here as well. A really robust sort of kind of like PE material on the, almost like tarpaulin, kind of thick tarpaulin material on there, and you've still got the main kind of features like cable entry points. So you've got a cable entry point down the bottom here, also one in the living area, and little Velcro tabs leading up to your hanging point, so you can have your electricity running quite nice and neatly. One thing to mention as well is obviously with the window scenario, you've got the ability of having different setups. So you can have it obviously fully down for the maximum amount of airflow. But if you want privacy but still have airflow, you've got the option on the windows. They've got essentially a additional kind of zip that kind of pulls out. So I'll use this one as an example. So what you can do is there's almost like 2 zips running throughout the actual parts. So you can probably see here. So what you can do is actually bring it out so it zips up quite nice and neatly. Have I used the right one? And then guy out this part here. So what you create is almost like a little funnel. So by having that little funnel, I won't zip it up on this side, I'll just pop it in place. So you see how it comes out from the window as well. So you've got a bit of airflow coming directly down, but still that element of privacy that you necessarily want to have. So I'll leave that like that, so when I bring the camera in, we can have a bit more of a look at that. Other things to mention is kind of the multifunctional bedroom scenario you got in with here. So even though it's really a 5-person, it's very flexible in how you have the layout. So you've got different doors, as you can see here, in a nice sort of kind of nice handled grey material. Ventilation panels throughout the doors as well, so you have airflow directly in. And again, that's one of the key features of it itself. Now, the joys of this is it's laid out almost like a 2 and a 3, but in theory, because of the divider system that's very flexible, you can have it as a 2, 2 and a 1, or you have it as a 3 and a 2, 2 and 3, and a zip divider, so it's a real thorough fit. So arguably, what I said, you can open up just the middle door on its own, and then you've got a nice single roof bedroom, about 65 centimeters width, so it's quite tight, but you could put a sound flame mat in there if you wanted to. Failing that, how I see it being used really more importantly is probably a true kind of 3 and 2 berth. So if we open up the 3 berth back there, we can untoggle this divider from the actual door itself. That essentially then rolls back, and you can probably see this divider here. Now, again, with the divider, you can have as a 2 and a 1, or zip it back, and then it's a really nice size 3 berth bedroom. Approximately about 2 meters wide there or thereabouts, versus the 135 you get on that side as well. And you can, like I said, flip it around if you wanted to. For me, it's probably better the orientation 3 this side, 2 that side, just because the door works a bit nicer, and then you've got your own, like I said, individual door to get into there. Because of the slightly darker bedroom, it does feel quite dark in there when you zip yourself up. And what Zempire have also done is they've actually changed the colour of the material above the bedroom to make it that extra bit darker as well. So it really do benefit from that. A beautiful big ventilation point right at the back to allow airflow to come all the way through the tent. But also what you see is actually you can, again, like we have with this scenario, is you can pull it out so you have the privacy, but you still have airflow in to kind of help sort of reduce condensation. What I'll do, let's bring the camera inside and kind of a little bit more up close detail with it all. So, as you can probably appreciate, I've just literally chucked the bedroom, the wall kit down there. And as we kind of come in, you can probably appreciate that depth a bit more. But it's a small, finer details that I really do quite like. The fact that you've got the ring parts there, adjustable straps at every point, the half and half mesh, and then we can look at this kind of system here. So you've got little isolation taps at every single beam to give you that additional sort of security that if you had an issue, it's isolated to a single point rather than the whole system going down itself. The door section we've got there, obviously, like I said, it's kind of nipped away. The windows, really nice, sort of crystal clear. That little brow canopy on the side, but you've obviously got the airflow. You can roll that down into a little storage pocket right at the bottom. Whereas we look at the other side, you can probably see now, actually, if I come side profile, that little part where it comes out. So it comes out a little bit, still keeps your kind of airflow going, or foiling that, which I might do a bit of a rush job on it, but you have the airflow all the way through, and it rolls into the pocket, and you still got that side door. The darker kind of bedrooms with the different options, you've got little cable entry points above there as well, so you have your mains go nicely and neatly into there, and then low down there, if you can probably see in the darkness, cable entry points, and all of the, even the details of the kind of pullers as well is Zempire branded in any kind of like a glow in the dark-ish material. Storage pockets built into the bedroom as well, so you can actually find your keys and phones, that sort of stuff, in the middle of the night, have to worry about it. And the big ventilation point at the back, which you can open and close. All the bedrooms back here have ties, so you can tie it back nice and neatly. And like I said, more importantly, it's zipped along the bottom, so it's a proper thorough bedroom and feels like completely individual. As we kind of come out the tent itself, in fact you can see the Velcro tabs, we'll have a little come out and kind of wander around it. So again, probably this is how you see it now is how it would necessarily be when you buy it from scratch. Really nice oversized duffel bag as well, with some, again, rings to really get the clamping part to it. But I think as a tent, I think it looks really, it's a big improvement, looks as sharp as you like. And for me, I love the ventilation points throughout it, and even the touch on sort of like the mesh, for example. You've got the classic kind of Zempire kind of flame built into it as well. Aluminium side pole as well, again, just to give it a bit more stability. Vents nicely at the back, and of course you've got not only the big vent, which I've actually fully opened up, which you can seal if you really wanted to, but the lower levels, which again just increase airflow throughout of it. And you can just look how tight that roof looks. You know, that's one thing, being polyester, it looks as sharp as you want it to. Low level points. But I think as a tent, yeah, it's a beautiful bit of kit. One thing I'd say probably overall, definitely worth a note, is that, you know, Zempire don't do things by halves. And in relation to that, what you do find is actually that from a price point, you know, it's not necessarily cheap, and it's not designed to be that. You pay for what you get. All the details and the workmanship, the single point inflation, all that does add on to the initial price of it in comparison, say, to a last year's model. But for me, I think it is a step they've had to do, and they always strive to probably make the best tents they possibly can. And the improvements they've made to this is a different tent, and it's almost gone to another level in terms of what Zempire do, you know. So I can't question that before, but yeah, like I said, from a price point of view, you do kind of pay for what you get. Overall, I think vast improvements to the Aero V2 model. And like I say, you can always check out the next size up, which we've done a separate video for, which is the TXL, and to give you a bit of an idea difference between sizes and how it all feels. And of course, if you wanted to, there are polycotton versions available of them, so you can go for the TC models if you want that next level of fabric and durability and breathability. So you can always check out, we've done separate videos on those as well, just to keep you all busy. Other thing to mention, we've done a single point inflation video on the TXL, which again gives you a bit more of an idea in comparison to the new system versus the old, which again, it's worth looking at. But generally, I think great tent, loads of features, and there's nothing else quite like it. And I think for me, the remodification of the TL size, which we've got here, really does make it almost probably, I don't want to say better than the TXL, but I think more viable for families, just because I think it ticks the boxes now in that front section and in the living area as well. I think it generally works a lot better, it sits a lot sharper, and overall, yeah, I personally really do quite like it, to be honest. So by more means, any question or queries, feel free to check the link below our video, take you through to our website where we've got all the information on the specification, individual features, the package deals, prices, of course, as well as all the other pitching videos. You can check there, and do let us know what you think of it as well. It's always great to have feedback from you. I know Zempire do have a very loyal family and sort of following, so it's definitely great to hear from you guys. So that's basically our little video review from us at Attwoolls here on the Zempire Aero Pro TL V2.